What's up, everyone? This is Silver Slayer, and welcome to my daily 10 p.m. video. Thank you for tuning in. Now, look, if you want a chance to win some silver, you better click subscribe. Go in the description. That's the entry video because I'm announcing the winner on Friday, so you only have a couple more days to enter, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck, everyone. May the luckiest stacker win. Now, I've heard a lot about silver price manipulation, spoofing, suppressing the price of silver, and I wanted to look into it further because we hear it all the time on these articles, but I really wanted to see how deep this is going because I did cover an article the other day, and he was talking about billions upon billions of dollars have been going, have been trying to inflate the stock markets and all that, and they've been spending trillions to try to suppress the price of silver. It was actually on my video yesterday when I was talking about how silver was the #1 performing asset in 2020. And in that article, the guy was saying, even though these banks are trying to suppress silver and boost up these stocks, silver still comes out on top. So I did some digging. I found a very, very good article from renaissancemen.org. And he's talking about why the banks are shorting gold and silver. And he even talks about Ted Butler, his article that I covered a couple weeks ago, where Ted Butler just goes in and exposes these banks like I've never seen before. The stuff he was saying, I've never heard. It wasn't just spoofing. It wasn't just placing false buy orders and canceling. No, he went in depth, and it was a great article. And I'm glad that this guy even mentions Ted Butler and what he's been, exposing in his articles as well. So this is going to be a very good read. We're going to learn a lot because he asks questions and then answers them. He really breaks it down, and that's what I like. I like context. I hate when people say stuff but don't back it up with anything. You could say anything you want, but if you don't back it up, there's no point. I could say, oh, silver's going to be $100 next year, but if I don't say why I think that or anything, I'm not really saying much. So anyways, the link to this article will be in the description. Let's jump into it. So why the banks are shorting gold and silver. First off, and I love the way he starts this, right? So he says, I get the process. Banks short the metals. They buy back cheaper. I get it. But why would you amass a pile of metals? I mean, do you buy these metals to then just look at them? Sure, you can lease some out. Perhaps you can pull an unallocated scam. We all have recently seen where perhaps you think you are buying unallocated silver, but the owner may only have 2% of the silver on hand, thus taking your money out and not buying silver. You think you are doing your part to stack silver, but it turns out you're being lied to. So, he's talking more about the physical market. I mean, not physical, but the paper market. But really, what is up with the 400 million shorts that Ted Butler calls crooks? And it was one of my first questions when I got involved with this. Who are the shorts? What the heck is a short? Why are they evil? And how is that suppressing the prices? So I wanted to get into this, right? He says, he's looking at what he did know, what he didn't know, sent emails to maybe 10 of the YouTube channels he watches explaining the why. As I've been reading, no responses. It's okay. What I presented was sort of thin. So overall, it went like this. And I like how he asked the questions and he dug deep. Kind of like what I'm doing right now. So I quoted the piece and I put in bold and red what I took away from it. So why suppress the paper silver price? The answer to a physical shortage is, of course, to allow the paper price to rise in order to alleviate the shortage. And yes and no. Yes and no. If the paper price rises, yes, people sell the silver, so but it works both ways. When the price rises, when spot price rises, people are also buying because everyone's talking about it, articles, right? Everyone, just like when the Hunt brothers cornered the market in 1980, silver was up to $50, the highest price till today silver's ever been. The government the U.S. government banned silver. They banned the act of buying silver because there was a shortage and they needed silver for these industrial applications. So they literally banned it. You could only sell silver, and you couldn't sell it to people like you and I. You had to sell it to big bullion dealers that probably had to turn it in. Regardless, even when the price was high, they still were in a shortage type of situation when they had to take insane extreme action. But anyways, people buy less of the commodity that way, and supply meets demand at a new clearing price. So why not just let the paper silver price rise to meet physical demand? What interest is there keeping the paper price of silver low? So I kind of get what he means, why keep the paper price low? Because he's thinking that people will just not buy. I mean, it's a very interesting, he's kind of looking at it backwards almost, but I do like how these are the questions that he's asking himself, and then he goes on to find out the answers, and now he's going to let us know. So the answer is that monetary demand is very different from industrial demand by its very nature. And that's kind of what I was just saying, right? Monetary demand, if not suppressed, can easily turn into a positive feedback loop. Because the more value a monetary metal like silver has in dollar terms, the more demand there is to have it, right? That's what I was just saying. The higher the price goes, everyone's trying to get it. The more demand there is, it is as a monetary reserve in a place of the dollar itself, right? There is no natural balancing mechanism as there is consumable commodities that are not used as money. In that sense, a silver run is similar to a bank run. Bank runs tend to feed on themselves. Monetary demand for silver is essentially a run on the dollar, which is itself primarily a monetary reserve. And of course, silver's a direct threat to the dollar, right? The government wants you investing into things that are pegged to the dollar, stocks, things like that. That's why they're going to put millions, billions of dollars in stocks to boost it up, because they want people investing in the stocks. When you take the control away from them in when you're investing in precious metals, you're taking complete control of your wealth, and they don't want that. That means you're basically rebelling against the system. Plus, when you're in debt, you're basically a slave to the system. It's a power move, it's a control tactic, and they don't like that. That's another reason why the Hunt brothers, and even he says it right here, it's another reason why the Hunt brothers, were deemed bad guys, because a lot of people were saying, how did these guys own 77% of the global supply of silver? And why are they doing this? And they said it was a hedge against inflation, but the government tried to deem them as they're cornering the market, trying to do this illegal, this sinister plot. When really they saw the hedge against inflation, they saw the collapsing dollar, and they bought a lot of it. Now, there is a little gray area because they did, but regardless, the government did extreme action from that. So raising interest rates was possible during the last silver run in 1980 when it hit $50, because the debt levels were much lower back then than they are now. And stocks were also nowhere near highs. And this is exactly that the Fed chair Paul Volcker did, pushing up overnight interest rates on the dollar near 20% so as to increase demand for the dollar as a monetary reserve, which eventually crushed monetary demand for silver and brought the price down in dollar terms, I guess. Well, I mean, yes, because when you boost up the dollar index, of course, that's going to boost the price of precious metals down, because there's a direct correlation, right? When dollar's up, silver's down, vice versa. So, but if you can't raise interest rates, the only way to stop a dollar run and flight into precious metals as a monetary reserve is to push the paper price of silver down by shorting silver futures. Banks have a vested interest in doing this, because if the dollar falls too fast, the value of the bonds on their balance sheets plummet, causing a systematic banking crisis. So if silver stops rising in dollar terms, though on the paper markets, the demand for it as a monetary reserve tends to eventually ebb, stabilizing the dollar that way. This is a very, he's kind of like he's making good points, but he's missing like the main point to his question, right? I mean, he's bringing good points in this. He is making, a case, but it's much deeper than what he found out and what he's talking about. It's much deeper than this. So what he wrote back makes perfect sense to me as a noob, but also terrified me. I'd like some others to leave some comment. And this is, he is new. He was asking these questions and he found, so I get it. He did very good. There's just a lot more to this than just, trying to, with the SLV and inflation and all that. It's much deeper, but no fighting or anything. But I think he was saying makes perfect sense from a logical standpoint. I asked him to expound further on it. I hope I don't get in trouble with him for this, trying to promote his efforts and bring forth the bigger picture for those more new to the fight. The grizzled veterans fighting for this 20 years may be like, yeah, obviously, to me, many newer stackers, this is an invaluable piece to the puzzle we are putting together. He wrote, and I put in red and bold, something I felt scary. So this is going to be interesting. The argument is basically like this, compressed. It's not that they short metals in an active attempt to protect bond prices. It's much more basic than that. Fundamental. Bonds are future dollars. If present dollars have no value, future dollars have no value. In order for present dollars to have value, they must be able to buy some amount of gold and silver. And the dollar only has value because it can still be exchanged for gold in some amount. Once it can't buy anything at all. And yes, I mean, the only reason the United States is the richest country in the world is because we own the most gold. We determine a country's wealth off of how much gold they have. Think about that. Let's apply that same principle to a person-to-person basis. That's not even the point. The point is that we still view gold and somewhat silver, but mainly gold, and banks don't look at silver as money at all. Even though it once was our money, literally. But, and silver was actually the first money in the United States. I made a video on that as well the other day. But the point is that gold is still our backbone. And the second that it isn't, you can't buy anything. And theoretically, nothing could go forwards, right? It would be, I don't even know what would happen because you can't go back to the gold standard. I actually made a video yesterday talking about Donald Trump mentioning the gold standard. He jokingly was talking about how nice it would be to bring back, but we're too deep in the hole. There's no solution, only an alternative, and that alternative is precious metals. But anyway, this is because of the Mises regression theorem, that all present money must be indexed to money in the past. Otherwise, its value cannot be known and therefore cannot circulate as money. In the beginning, money started from a state of barter, which is why gold and silver are monies, and the dollar was born out of them, which is true, right? The dollar was a promissory note or a certificate to exchange in gold and silver, right? That's what a dollar was. But nowadays, we got rid of the gold and silver, so the dollar is just a promise with nothing backing it, right? With nothing backing it. The dollar's only as strong as people think it is. Literally, the dollar's only as strong as people think it is. How much they believe that promise. And if people literally don't think the dollar's strong, then it literally isn't strong, which is scary because the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. See, the dollar is a gold substitute. That's what I was just saying. That's what gives it value, which is no longer a gold substitute, meaning it cannot buy gold at all. It's worthless. And it literally is worthless. So the dollar's lost 98% of its purchasing power and 44% in the last 20 years. So delivery of the contracts, obviously this is a big situation. I made a video the other day where someone tried to turn in their silver contract for physical delivery and they got denied. They got rejected, and I don't know if that's going to start happening more soon, but that would be a scary thought because even the Hunt brothers bought billions of dollars of silver and tried to turn in all the contracts. Another way to try to corner the market. And it's just getting out of control because there isn't every ounce of silver you own in your safe. 100 other people theoretically own that on, the COMEX, the SOB. These people think they own that physical silver, but we're the ones that actually own it, and they theoretically own it. And that's why I say if you can't hold it, you don't own it. So, anyways, so essentially, blue dotted line is now showing COMEX deliveries. Obviously, it wasn't much of the delivery mechanism before a year ago, but it has been. And it's showing you a trend over the last 12 months of deliveries being taken. Maybe silver might not be leaving the vaults at this time, but maybe changing possession to gear up for that soon. And if people try to actually turn in all these contracts, there would be a huge problem. And I mean a very big problem. And we're already starting to see that, as some people are already getting rejected. So, anyways, so this could be the situation. Well runs dry. What happens to the ability of these suppressed metals when the shorts legit have their way out of position to hand over the metal? And that's a good question. I mean, what's going to happen when they don't have the silver to fill that contract, right? So let's look at this real quick. I know a lot of you aren't interested in cryptocurrency, but as an investing channel, and this does have to do with gold and silver, we need to cover it. So I don't want a war with the crypto folks, but it's not a peer to gold. There are most definitely use cases for it. But I only want to bring up this because of something he said. So the dollar only has value because it can still be exchanged for gold in some amount. Now we can debate if this statement is true or not, but a look at Waymer and gold prices. So I mean, these are just, numbers. It really, just showing percentage changes. But if you hold Bitcoin and its value in dollars, and dollars becomes worthless to gold, what is your Bitcoin worth? And that's true, because we can take away spot price. We can take away spot price from silver, because 1 ounce of silver is always going to have 1 ounce of silver in it, just like it has been for 5,000 years before fiat money was even in existence. But Bitcoin's different because Bitcoin is based off dollar terms. So if the dollar is gone, what would 1 Bitcoin be worth? What would 0.03 Bitcoin be worth? Would it be just going by Bitcoin? Would that be the new state? So if you wanted to buy, let's say, a car, the car would be 0.03 Bitcoin. But then if the price, how could the price fluctuate if there's nothing to fluctuate from? What I'm saying is, if, like right now, 0.5 Bitcoin, well, let's look at it like this. 0.5 Bitcoin would be like around $15,000, $16,000 right now. But in, a month from now, 0.5 Bitcoin might be $18,000 or $19,000. So there would have to probably be a standard value of Bitcoin that doesn't change, because there would be nothing to base it off of in dollar terms if it did. So it would probably be something, that would be a very weird situation. That's a really good question. But if you can buy groceries or gasoline in Bitcoin, then Bitcoin itself has value. Perhaps buying a $60,000 Tesla at the end of times with a Bitcoin can work. But if you exchange your Bitcoin for dollars and those dollars do not buy anything of value, how much is your Bitcoin worth? That's a good question. But there are a lot of benefits with Bitcoin, right? Because there's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be created, ever in existence. There's only 21 million. That's all. 16 million are already mined off the blockchain and are in people's wallets or in circulation. So there's only 5 million Bitcoin to be found. After those get found and all the Bitcoin is mined up and it's in people's wallets, think about what the price could be. Because that means you only can buy Bitcoin off of other people that have it. You can't buy it from from coins getting mined. Think about that. And 21 million is a very small number for a global coin, especially like Bitcoin. So anyway, that's a whole nother video, but it is interesting to look at. And I do like the point he made with that. So, it's a lot deeper than this situation, but I do like the points he brought up. I mean, the government's, and this is what happened in the Ted Butler article, by the way. He goes on to say that this price manipulation can't go on forever. J.P. Morgan spoofing and all that. It's a punishable crime now. 3 of their employees went to prison. The Dutch bank Merrill Lynch also spoofing, got caught. They're looking back decades of this happening. Billions of dollars have been in this to essentially rig the silver market. But Ted Butler even says, this can't go on for much longer. Fundamentals are going to take over at the end of the day. And he even said this at the end of the article. He said, think of the highest price for silver you can imagine and then double or triple it. Now, that's extremely extreme, but he was saying that, if they can't keep suppressing this price, then it would be astronomical. Now, how long is that going to be? Who knows? It's not going to be next month, not next year. But the point is that the way our financial system is set up, the way everything's headed, silver stackers are always going to get the last laugh, and they have been getting the last laugh for the last 5,000 years. So I'm going to wrap this video up here. If you thought this video was educational, informational, at least entertaining, make sure to smash the like button. I do have a new merch drop. AG47 Apparel is my clothing line. It's clothing for silver stackers. I dropped a new shirt and hoodie, different colorways, very cool stuff. I have shirts that say "Got Silver" with a question mark on the front, and then on the back of the shirt it says "Cause I do." I have all different types. The dollar logo with skull and crossbones. I have the dollar logo with an arrow pointing down through it, showing the dollar's worthless. I have all different types of stuff. If you are someone who wants to, express your love for precious metals in a fashionable manner, it's a perfect place. You'll see the link in the description, slayersmerch.com. Make sure you click subscribe and also go click the link in the description to enter my 47,000 subscriber giveaway. Thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.